Welcome to BeerNet Radio. Listen to on every continent except Antarctica. BeerNet Radio.
Jordan, you gonna get a matching tracksuit with Harry's? That would be pretty cool. I'll get one too.
Yes.
You're getting a jumpsuit.
You're getting a jumpsuit, Biscuit, whether you like it or not. Jordan, how are you? What'd you do last night besides work?
Just work, and Les and I are doing a little sleep training with Lenny right now.
How's that going?
It's actually going pretty good.
Okay.
What I've discovered is sometimes you need to just pay a professional to tell the wife, the mom, that it's okay to let the baby cry for 10 minutes.
Sometimes.
Because that's basically like what happened is, we didn't have any structure.
Right.
She would wake up and I'd be like, I think she's not crying. Like, I think she's just up, unless it's like, it's that maternal like instinct. It just kicks in. She's like, no, I need to go get her. I'm like,
Aww.
So
You gotta let them cry. It exercises their lungs, I'm told.
we're not doing like crazy long intervals of letting her cry, but we've discovered that there was a lot of times she was waking up and she wasn't really up. She was just kind of sleep talking.
Jordan, how these big corporations, they hire consultants to fire people so they don't have to do it. That's what you're doing here. And I don't blame you. I did the exact same thing. I was like, talking to the pediatrician, I was like, will you just tell her that the baby's fine? I've had
And look how they
them.
turned out. No,
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe don't take advice from me. Y'all, YY is the best. Do you see him out here? Let's let our guest in, because sometimes we wait too long and then they leave.
And they're like, what the hell?
This is Adam. And that Country Luau is cool, actually. I looked it up, and I like when they say we're between Nashville and Austin.
Somewhere.
And I like that, because you know what? I like Nashville and I like Austin. And it turns out everybody else does too, because that's where everybody's moving. And I liked Nashville and Austin back when nobody else liked it. That's hello, Adam. Welcome to BeerNet Radio.
So you founded Country Luau Spirits, low-cal spirit-based RTD brand that donates 2% of sales to musicians, flavors like mango mosa with real vodka, yuzu ranch water with blanco tequila, all things that I would love to try. But I have to say, what really got us interested in you is the brand is your background, Adam, because peeping your LinkedIn, you've been global director of e-com at ZX Ventures. You led sales and innovation for Heineken, VP marketing for Waterloo Sparkling. So you've seen how the sausage is made, right? And you're still coming back to make it for yourself. So why now, and why this proposition?
Well, I just want to, level set that after 20 years of doing those things, after starting my own company, I really feel like I don't know a single thing about the industry. I think that's the clear thing that I've proven myself in the last.
Welcome to the club, Ad.
Right.
I've been doing this for 20 years and I still learn something. Price elasticity of demand still confuses me. So
yeah, it's a general idea, right? It kind of works sometimes.
Right. I can fake it in a conversation, but go ahead.
No, after a long career, kind of working for some really cool global brands and awesome companies, and acquired a vast amount of knowledge, working for some of the bigger players, and really enjoyed my time there. A few years ago, I started scaling down my career for this moment, to do my own thing. It was always on my career path roadmap, and it was really about finding the right opportunity in really kind of emerging category and waiting for that moment, right? Coming into big categories or big category segments is really hard, and really learned that from, Waterloo, where we were competing against Coke, Pepsi, La Croix, some really awesome brands and really good companies. But did get a perspective how to compete in commodities, I think, and kind of build brands within commodities or commodity categories. And I looked at RTD, as one of those big opportunities, because it's so disruptive to multiple categories, right? It's disruptive to beer. It's disruptive to core spirits. It's disruptive to craft spirits. It's really disruptive to wine. In addition to that, when you look at kind of what's going on in wine. So I was like, man, there's something cooking going on in this kind of new emerging category. And then you look at, the FMB space, And just from a product quality standpoint, really under delivering on an awesome opportunity. Really under delivering. I remember going to a little festival, years ago, and I walked into an executive, and I saw the Bon Vive hard seltzer. Then it was just called Spiked Seltzer, right? And Dave,
Right.
guys,
Yeah.
I grabbed it, and I walked into, a global VP's office in ZX, and I said, this is going to change the game.
Nice.
But even then, the product quality under delivered on the value proposition of kind of what these refreshing kind of mocktail, cocktail, emulators could really deliver, right? If anything, it was a good channel solution, but the product kind of given that channel solution really underwhelmed consumers.
Right.
But it was novel, so it took off, right? And I just looked at this opportunity and said, man, we as an industry can do a lot better. And I'd love to be a part of that.
So
It
did
is
you decide?
interesting that I'm sorry, Jen. This is my last.
Okay.
It is the whole malt-based seltzer craze, like you said, it was really a channel play, but it disrupted and it allowed an entree for entrepreneurs, kind of like craft beer did, like back in 2010. There's these opportunities don't come very often, but when they do, I think it's cool because it gives us more to report on, except for just AB, Molson Coors, and Constellation.
Yeah,
That's just,
but it's also incredibly hard because you got a gold rush, right?
Yeah.
And anytime you kind of prove these, you get a huge gold rush, and you get a lot of competition, not only from big companies but from extremely creative entrepreneurs, who all have create a value proposition in a very different way. Some of them sustainable, and some of them not. But they really challenge the status quo of kind of what first to market movers had accomplished.
So do you think that Spike Seltzer, now Bon Vive, do you think the problem with that was just the formula, or was there more than that? And also, is that kind of the moment where you thought, this is what I want to bring to market myself?
Well, not just Bon Vive, but kind of the hard seltzer, craze overall. I think, they did an outstanding job of getting to market, capturing consumers, creating habitual use. But as that consumer matures, they become kind of more aware, or in a lot of cases, more confused about what they're actually consuming. And especially as consumers age, they tend to premiumize. And unless you can keep filling kind of the bottom, the consumer, you keep a recruitment strategy really heavy with the generation of consumers, they're going to leave you for more premium options or more authentic options over time. We saw that on Malibu when I was working on that brand. So we constantly had to be recruiting, because as they aged, they would leave the brand for more mature products. So, and that can be very expensive and very competitive. And if over time, consumers at a younger age are starting to premiumize faster and younger, then that presents a significant problem for things like hard seltzer, who, because of their malt liquor base and the way that product doesn't play nice with other ingredients. Not like the way spirits does. Spirits plays really nice with everything. That's why cocktails are cocktails. That presents a huge problem for that segment of the category. And that's where RTDs, spirit-based RTDs, really provide that quality solution for consumers. And beer wholesalers are all over it, right? They're figuring it out, and they love it because it's a high margin item, has a potential for really great velocities. It gives them something to push back against spirit companies who have been eroding their market share for years. And they need something to fight against, declining trends in craft beer specifically, which they based a lot of business on. It's a great replacement.
Yes. So, your website says you guys are in 32 states, or you ship to 32 states. So, speaking of beer distributors, I got to believe you've got distributors in most of those markets. Can you paint that picture for us?
Yeah. So we've really aligned with, we always try to align with the best option, in the market. And thus far, we've really found a lot of success aligning with beer wholesalers. I love it and I hate it because, it's going to be a lot of beer wholesalers. As we better out of the company, I think on average, you're going to collect about 271 partners. So,
give it a few years.
Yeah, in a few years, it would be a fantastic problem to have, right? Champagne problem. But who I really like and seems to be really strong is kind of two players. Is I think the Reyes guys really get it, and they kind of really know category management really well, and we aligned with them in South Carolina. And then it's really about kind of your local ABI distributors. They're really strong. They understand category management better than anyone from a distributor standpoint, alongside kind of the Reyes folks. But then there's always independent players and, the Miller Coors houses in certain markets who are also really incredible. So it's really, it goes back to picking your right partner in the market, who's got it together and who believes in the segment and is investing in the segment, and who has the internal resources, right? Because it's not just a plug and play channel thing, because traditionally, if you're in liquor markets, your beer guys don't always have kind of that independent liquor kind of power that's really, driven to the spirit companies. So are they investing in that channel, resourcing the channel from a sales standpoint? Because they're traditionally low volume beer accounts, but has the potentially high volume RTD accounts. So you really need to make sure you're lining up with someone who shares that same vision for the expansion of this category.
And do you see beer wholesalers starting to say, like, bring me more canned cocktails? Like you're talking about AB distributors, obviously a lot of them have Cutwater, but are they just saying, bring it on, I'll take more and more of canned cocktails?
Not more and more. It's certainly harder than ever to get, a distributor to bet on you. I think what they saw during the rapid expansion of hard seltzer and then the subsequent rapid contraction of power brands in the hard seltzer category said, hey, let's do fewer, bigger, better, right? So they're placing bigger bets on a smaller portfolio of complementary RTDs. And I think, we're still really early in the segmentation within the category, but I mean, the segmentation could get really weird down the road on how we choose as an industry to kind of start segmenting RTDs. So I think the way they look at it is, do they have complementary products from both a product design standpoint, pricing standpoint, consumer targeting standpoint? And they kind of look at those things, and do we really create a symphony of RTDs versus just start hoarding options, kind of maybe the way that some wholesalers looked at craft beer and hard seltzer in the early days of the category growth. They've kind of learned from those
Gotcha.
experiences.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we talked about that last week with Rebecca Maisel and Don Faust, how, maybe 3 years ago it was more come one, come all. And now it's, after they're still having inventory issues, getting through all the seltzer, it's like, nah, we're going to be much more discerning on who we do business with. One of the things you mentioned that, certainly it's much easier just to go with 2 or 3 wine and spirits wholesalers. You got the whole country covered. Although you might get lost in their book and they don't cover C stores as well per se. Does that come into your thinking of going into the complexity of going with 300 wholesalers potentially instead of 3?
Yeah.
The channel access is the question, I guess.
It puts a lot of pressure on you internally on how you have to cover, your distributor network, because it's you want to have a close relationship, and the wider you spread yourself, the less close you can be, and the less TLC you can spend, working with your distributor to come on the right channel plans, right strategies, right? But it still comes down to, I think it's still a similar thing, is your distributor is going to be your best resource to get distribution pretty quickly in a market. And then it is still the burden of the supplier to be able to create the pull, right? And that's through marketing excellence, right? And so the brands who are excellent marketers, I think, are the ones that are going to be really successful. If you put too much of the pressure on your distributor partner, you have unrealistic expectations. It's really a partnership. They get a little bit of push for you, and then it's your job to create the pull.
So how do you guys market Country Luau then?
So we still do a lot of hand-to-hand combat. I think the magic of Country Luau is we can build trust and loyalty with consumers on liquid to lips opportunities. So it's still playing in that expensive demo world, right? Which puts a lot of pressure on your resources internally, because demos are not that scalable, right? You're gonna have a lot of cash to do that one. But it's about
when you say demo, you mean like sampling in the trade?
Yeah.
Okay. The lingo changes, so I got to keep up with it.
Yeah. But I adopted some vocabulary from the water business as well. So
okay.
I'm like speaking a hybrid of alcohol and so it's, demo is hand-to-hand combat, and that can be in a variety of, portions. So it's events that ladder in with kind of your marketing platform, showing up in places where your target consumer is going to be, and complementing those experiences, like at music festivals for us, since we're a music driven brand. And then on top of that, it's just good targeted social media. And then having right media partners as well. Gallo's really figured out a recipe, and investing in media platforms that have a collective of influencers that can build brand awareness, and then also help you establish trust with consumers through those ambassadors. So, they've done a really excellent job, and they should be a case study recently on how to build rapid adoption of products. So we have some plans on that coming up. We just
it's very underutilized, I think. We Bang Energy was another one that was before their downfall. They were the first to go to TikTok, and they just said just have it sitting there. You don't even have to say anything, and it built the brand. At least that's what I hear.
They knew who their tribe was, right? They knew exactly. And it was kind of this fitness influencer market,
right?
And it was they used a lot of female influencers with very large male audiences. Right. And that was really effective for them. And, not to say that those female influencers didn't have also very strong, trusting female audiences. So, it was just really effective, really smart, because that's where the tribe, that's where their tribe was. And they found key influencers in their tribe. And it's always better to start, as pinpoint to your target consumer as you can get.
Who is your tribe? Who is, what is the name? Where does Country Luau come from?
It comes from a variety of influences. It's a really kind of cool story. So originally it was this really crappy dive bar in South Texas. And
we love crappy dive bars
in South Texas.
It's a dive bar. And, I was talking with a colleague of mine once, and I said, "Hey, where do you go when you go home for holidays?" And he goes, "Oh, we go hang out and drink at the Country Luau." And I just said, "Oh my God, that is an incredible name." And
it's like near Dallas. I think I've heard of it.
No, it's in Kingsville, Texas.
Oh, Kingsville. Okay. Okay.
South Texas.
That's real South Texas. That's by the King Ranch, by the border, basically. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And there's something really, I get attracted to names that evoke an emotional connection. And that name just kind of hit me right in the chest. And I was just like, man, that's an incredible name. And the names popped up all over the country, music festivals, private parties. And so there's some kind of, it was already kind of spread around the country. And but I said, I want to learn more about kind of what that would mean from a brand. I was like, what would be a Country Luau? So I started doing research, and I started finding these kind of interesting elements to kind of Texas, Southern culture, country culture. And, I found out that cattle ranching in Hawaii, predated cattle ranching in the Americas, or in America, all the way back to the 1700s. And, the Hawaiian cowboys were taught to cowboy by Mexican cowboys called the Paniolo. which was really cool, which is why you kind of see the bowl pop up in our thing. So it's a wink and nod to that history. And there was obviously an influence of music that happened there. So that's why I always joke that our ranch water could be the authentic ranch water, because it uses some of the Japanese flavor influence of Hawaii with yuzu, the tequila influence of the paniolo. So maybe we have the original ranch water. I'm not sure.
I like it.
It's a stretch, but I'm going to roll with it.
But we're going to roll with that.
So, and then we kept kind of, I'm a big country music fan growing up in Texas. And, as I grew up, I always heard this kind of sound in country music that sounded very tropical. And as I was doing more research, I kind of kept looking into that. And it turns out in the 1900s, the Hawaiians created the first steel guitar. So it was like this young 19-year-old man, and he created this lap steel guitar. He basically put a guitar on his lap, changed out the strings to metal, and then he used a rail tie to create this really incredible sound. Then he brought it to the World's Fair, and everybody was like, oh my God, that's the new guitar sound. It had a lot of influence over blues, rock, and country, and it's just not recognized, that story. And so we actually donate to Himlay, which is an organization in Hawaii that helps continue the education of the steel guitar. We love that story. And then kind of the literal meaning of the word luau, which is a backyard party with live music and food, right? So when we think of kind of Hawaiian ranching, we think of, getting together and having a good time, which aligns with our mission statement of bring people together and enhance life's most memorable moments. This kind of world that a country luau could represent, and the backstories that we backed into were really fun and really beautiful. And that was something I felt like I could help build on. And that gave me kind of enough, not just a fun name or a name that evoked emotion, but it's a name with a really great story behind it, and some real kind of cross pollination to country music culture, Southern culture, ranching culture.
That is cool. I like that. And you're right. It does punch an emotional impact, and I didn't know why. I was like, that's cool. Country luau, it mixes two things you don't normally see together. And, who is your tribe? Like who drinks country luau without even hard selling it to them?
Yeah. When we do demos, and we engage with consumers one-to-one, it's everybody. I think that's the wild part. You have your consumer target, but then who really pulls it is like the other thing. And it's everybody. We do really well when we do like a younger store near a college, right? Like they're grabbing it like crazy. Then we move out to a more affluent area, and people are grabbing it for different occasions, pool, boat, barbecue. The kind of our kind of take on what I call, Gulf Western tropical, really kind of resonates with a lot of people. But when we look at marketing, our consumer target is really kind of country music fans in the Southeast, college educated consumers, great household incomes. It is a awesome and underserved consumer target. They've been waiting for something that kind of represents kind of their lifestyle a little bit closer than, some of the bigger, more homogenous brands.
So I'm wondering what the volume prospects are, and maybe if you could share what you guys have done so far.
Yeah, we think the category RTD, right, as a whole is going to be pretty big. I think the
spirits based or as a whole, like
as a whole.
Okay.
I think where we're sitting right now is somewhere around 8% of total RTD, right? The spirits based stuff. And that's a pretty big leap year over year. Obviously driven by probably one major player, someone we're all familiar with.
You mentioned Gallo, right?
So, it's really driven by that one major player when you look at like how influential that brand has been to the category. But what we love about it is that it's doing exactly what we think the category is going to continue to do, which is, source volume from a very large FMB based, RTD based, right? So again, how we segment the thing is still kind of wonky, right? I wish we could pull them apart, that way we can get a cleaner read on kind of what's growing where. But I think they've done an excellent job of sourcing volume and premiumizing consumers from the FMB or the malt-based stuff. I think the category, the way we calculate it, is going to be somewhere in the US around 20 billion by 2027. I think that's very ambitious. But I think as more consumers move from adjacent categories, again, because my vision is that it's pulling from spirits, traditional, 750 and up spirit type products. It's pulling from beer for people looking for more refreshment, healthier, perceived healthier options, as well as, pulling people over from that $8 billion, FMB space. So we think, 20 billion is optimistic. And if we can grab a good portion of that, that would be fantastic.
Do you have any internal projections you can share, or you guys are really just starting out? When did you hit the market? Like this year, right? Or
early April.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're still a baby.
Yeah.
So we're still figuring this whole thing out. Right. I think we'll finish the year somewhere, probably around 12,000 cases, which was better than forecasted for us. We're on that kind of that run rate now of around 1,000 cases a month, which is fantastic. And we're seeing sustainable results through some seasonality, which is good. But, we do anticipate some softness, in Q4, driven by both consumer and retail prioritization. But we do anticipate an even bigger summer next year. So, because it's just going to keep getting better for the spirit-based stuff.
Yeah, and it looks like you also have a DTC business. And how developed is your DTC business, and how's that going?
It's pretty passive for us, to be honest with you. It's an option for consumers who can't find us. We're, as we started the brand in Austin and Nashville, which have some pretty significant tourism traffic. And we do run into a pretty large percentage of out-of-towners. And so the traffic that we do see is usually from people that we have met during events or demos who've fallen in love with the product really quickly and want it back in their hometown where we don't service those states.
Right.
So that's kind of how we establish the capability, from my time at ZX with e-commerce business. You can take an omni-channel approach if you want to, but they're both very expensive. And so if you really like burning capital, do both. It's fantastic. Just really enjoy that ride.
I love burning capital. That's my favorite thing to do, actually, is burn capital.
I'm glad you said that, Harry, because you can burn some capital on me.
Okay, let's go. Let's go. Hey, let's go to Hawaii. Too. But I
think unless you have that, if you like DTC and you have some special, tool you can use, or a media platform you can use, or something that has like really great national reach and that gives a consumer to purchase, that's your secret weapon. I think trying to do it on a media investment only and trying to create a profitable flywheel on e-com, just given the economics of heavy RTD products, it's not that great.
I hadn't realized it was heavy.
Better on 750 business. Like, that's a cool channel. Like, I would love to launch a full product DTC there. Something over $100 would be,
it is tough when you get the freight and all that in there. Where are you? Where is it line priced? Is it with High Noon or? No, we're true. I mean, High Noon's all over the place now. I think they raised prices. Yeah. Retailers are starting to finally say, okay, well, we can't we can't go below 20% margins anymore on this stuff. And they're starting to push price up, right? And then you're seeing people above us go up $1 too. So we're holding strong at $12.99. We've got great supply chain partners that are taking it easy on us because they know what phase we're in, and they believe in the company long term. So they're not going to kind of hit us short term and put some financial pressure on us. So we've actually increased margins during supply chain issue time periods, which is kind of nuts.
But we like that $12.99 because I think we're going to see compression below us. And then we'll see, continued kind of expansion upwards above us. So it's kind of a Goldilocks type price point.
Yeah, it's a good value. And that's a good place to sit, I would think.
Goes back to our theory of elasticity, right? Like where's the best place to be?
Yeah, right. Because there's a lot of cross elasticity these days because the consumer's promiscuous. This is what we hear at all these AB events. So I think that's cool. And what about you talk about how you're music based, and I know you give back to musicians. And where are you based, in Austin, or?
I really live out of my car.
Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, I'm not based anywhere. I'm based where the business kind of needs me the most because I've got a pretty flexible lifestyle. So in the first few months of our business, I floated between, our 4 markets where we're currently available. Spent most of my time in the early phase in Nashville. Currently back in Austin since we launched Austin this month. And then it's really, where does the business need you in this kind of remote working world? You have that luxury to kind of say, okay, where can I go and build a really strong relationship with my wholesalers, support the local market from a founder's perspective. Because it's exciting for stores during their first launch period to meet a founder of any business.
Right.
And it gives me a really good local understanding of the markets, which gives me a better global understanding of strategy.
Are you looking
Adam,
to open?
I have, that is the best answer I've heard from anybody. And you know who else does that? And this may make you laugh, but Happy Dad Seltzer from the Nelk Boys, they're the YouTube sensation guys. Every time I check his Instagram, he's never at home. He lives in LA, I think. He hadn't been in LA in like 2 years. He just travels constantly, and it's a good way to build out a brand if you're there.
I think this guy Jim started it, right? I forget his last name.
Yeah,
Sam
is the guy that I'm looking at. He's one of the Nelk. Biscuit,
Nelks.
calm down. Sorry, my dog's wants to meet you. My dog also likes to meet founders. So go ahead, Jen. I talked over you. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Adam, I was just wondering what new markets you were looking to open potentially, since you're in 4. I know that you shipped to a few others, but what else are you looking to open?
We're really focused on the Southeast,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where, our consumer index is really strong across the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
But for us to be an efficient organization, it's about concentration, right? And I think between, Austin, Nashville, South Carolina, we'll be moving into Georgia next year. Florida, hopefully Florida's the whole thing. It's tough to do beer network in Florida. So we're hopeful to find maybe a spirit partner that can take us statewide, especially with chain pricing in that market. But it's really a concentration of building a really strong regional brand, which, I think when you look at how categories and emerging segments really have evolved, there's a really opportunity to build a really great regional brand first, and then take a look at national expansion over time. But then there's always opportunity. So, and you gotta look at opportunity when it comes, because there's a lot of it out there. And we get calls from the Northeast already and from distributors saying, when are you coming to New York City? And I'm like, let's talk about it. I'm not sure what that would look like for us, but it's really it's been really, really humbling for kind of people to take a look at our brand and start calling us for it. So we're excited about the future, but we're also very focused.
It seems like a natural fit for the Southeast.
Adam, it seems like most spirits-based seltzers, they've kind of stuck with one alcohol base, vodka. And I'm sure it's much more difficult to work with 3 different bases. But have you found it to be that much more rewarding bringing that variety to the shelf?
Yeah, I think our variety pack, there's a few other companies that take that approach as well. I think it comes down to authenticity, right? And when you move into RTD, and aligning flavors that have a true connection to the spirit that you use. So like our strawberry Dak Shack is awesome. Consumers love it because they're like, hey, there's not really a lot of like delicious rum seltzers out there. but what's the flavor profile that matches up great with rum? Well, it's always strawberry daiquiri. So we created a 100-calorie strawberry daiquiri without all the pain and suffering of the full strength version, and that felt very authentic in the right spirit to use for that product. Ranch water obviously requires tequila to be somewhat authentic, and then mango mosa and pineapple jalapeno with vodka in it, kind of has that broader market, that vodka consumer appeal, but flavors that you wouldn't normally find paired up with vodka. So we're a little bit hypocritical, but the consumer, I think, is driven by flavor first, right? And when you look at the research, that is kind of what they prioritize in their decision tree. And then when they start looking at kind of spirit-based, or what is the alcohol source, and that kind of sits in the middle of the decision tree. So, but working on a lot of other brands, it's the marriage between those two things which creates authenticity, and then that can be something the consumer values more, right? And that's when you start creating more of an emotional connection with the consumer. Like, oh, I get it, I love it, like that makes me feel better about drinking this.
Yeah.
And again, like I think the downside to that, Jordan, is it will be a bit more confusing to market all products at once. So you lose some marketing efficiency, by saying, hey, Country Luau vodka seltzers. So we can also create a little consumer confusion along the way, or it's just a little harder to market. But we feel like it's the right thing to do. And that's where the category will head to more authentic representations of RTDs and kind of cocktails in general.
Well, Adam, I'm going to order me some strawberry Dak Shack on Drizzly this weekend because I'm based in Austin. So thank you so much for sharing everything with us. And we'll definitely keep an eye on you.
It's live at all. I think I checked yesterday, but it's now live at all your Total Wines too. So you can grab them there.
Oh, great. Will do. I have to say it's rare these days that I actually get to a liquor store, but I will for this.
I'm interested mostly in the pineapple jalapeno. All right. Well, good. Well, thanks for being on, and we'll catch up with you, and we'll have you back on in 6 months if you're game.
Sounds like a plan, guys. Thanks for being Country Luau.
You bet. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.